name is Devin McGreal. I work for Cascade Natural Gas Corporation. So I am the Renewable Resources Manager for Cascade. Doing that, just starting that role a couple months ago. Integrated Resource Plan. So I've been working on that for about 8 years now, and we contracted with PLEXOS a little bit over 2 years ago to really do that long-term integrated resource planning. Basically, the methodology has always been least cost, least risk planning, which PLEXOS allows us to do, optimizing all of our assets to find what that ultimate solution is. Recently, we've added a new wrinkle to that, being emissions reduction as well. So now, in addition to having least cost, least risk planning, you need to be able to add that constraint, which PLEXOS is fantastic for, of being able to say, how do you serve your customers and still meet emissions targets that the various states we operate in has? Absolutely. I think it's fantastic for a company like ours where the software is so intuitive to use. It's powerful, but it's not very, I wouldn't say it's not difficult. There's definitely challenges, but it's so intuitive once you get going with it. And it really presents results that our regulators are very responsive to. It's solutions that we can very clearly understand and help us understand what our pathways to success are. I really like the cloud functionality. I think being that we do use PLEXOS Cloud as well. Our PLEXOS usage is not all the time, so we need to be able to have a very dense concentration of usage. So having access to that cloudburst functionality to say, okay, we're in crunch time now. We need to be able to get some results out, and we don't have months to wait for it to run, to be able to QC all the stuff. So to be able to say, okay, we can now subscribe to that cloudburst and really harness the power of those extra machines is invaluable to us. Long-term planning is all we do, right? So that's, as our team, we're trying to figure out, by 2050, we have some pretty strict emissions reduction goals that we as a company, when we're a gas utility, we need to be able to hit these goals to be able to stay in existence, frankly. And so being able to demonstrate a very clear, very feasible and possible pathway to say, hey, as a gas utility, here's how we can, showing the utilization of our assets, acquire new assets. PLEXOS's visualization tools are fantastic for being able to help us present that plan to our regulators, frankly, to stay in existence. The team's fantastic. So we are definitely in a little bit of a staffing transition right now. We've had, I've moved over roles recently. We've had a couple of new people come on. The fact that whenever there's any needs for training, the onboarding, learning it, like I said, it wasn't necessarily easy, but the team made it easy. They're always responsive to questions. They understand our unique situations. I feel like the individuals that we've worked with have really taken the time. Jonathan Strauss, I'll have to call out. I think he's fantastic and really took the time to understand our company and what our challenges are related to it and walk us through how do we build a model. We came over from Sendout, and so how do we end up translating this model that we had into now what we need to do moving forward? He was great about it along the way, and now as we bring new people on board, he's been fantastic about it. I would. I think it's a great opportunity, especially if you can find people who are in your space as well. I think that's one of the great things as well, is it's a great opportunity to interface and network with people who are facing the same challenges as you. I have a colleague with a company that's a couple hours away, and to be able, you always try to find time to talk to them, which there's not always an opportunity to. So to be able to be at a conference like this and say, hey, we're literally talking about this right now. How do you do that? What are some tips that you might have for that? Plus the lab sessions. The lab sessions are fantastic to be able to sit with an expert and just say, this is a real problem I have now. The technical, the theoretical stuff is great, but I can just take my laptop out and say, this is a problem I'm facing right now. How do I do it? How do I deal with that? How do I find that solution? What am I missing here? You can call them and they're fantastic. Really, there's not much that can replace that face-to-face. I think it's fantastic. Regulatory safety, certainty, and security. It's the ability to say we have this powerful optimization tool. We're not trying to say that it's us doing numbers behind the scene. We're not using some Excel-based model that, there's not the backing that a company like Energy Exemplar brings to it, the credibility that when you present those results, you can say, this was run through a software that, I feel like I can hang my hat on at the end of the day. And if it says this is my optimal solution, I genuinely believe that. we'll go months without having to use the software. It's just we'll have different challenges and different structures. But when it comes time to do our system modeling, that is all that we do. Without having access to the cloudburst, we would probably be, our runtimes, I would imagine 4, 5, 6 times longer. So to be able to just say, now we have access to this one resource, it's also great for collaboration. Our team is decentralized of sorts, so we've got people all around the Pacific Northwest. To be able to say that, you can just download this from the cloud and pull this off, push this up to the cloud, track changes, instead of working on individualized machines, that's very powerful for a team like ours. For us, utilizing the software, we put all of our existing assets in place, right? So any supply contracts we think we may have, transportation capacity contracts, what our demand load might be, and the system helps us say, this is, generally speaking, holistically, what you might need to grab from where. So it also helps us identify if there are any resource deficiencies, which is always vital information to know. If you have demand growing in a certain area and you may not realize you have a capacity shortfall, you have a supply shortfall, PLEXOS helps you identify that, and furthermore, identify what is the optimal way to replace that, whether it's with existing resources or potentially having to acquire new capacity or new supply. For the decarbonization, it's so valuable. That's frankly the main reason we came over, is the software we were using in the past didn't have the capacity to do that emissions reduction modeling. So being able to work with PLEXOS, work with the individuals on your team to say, okay, this is how you put those emissions in your modeling. This is how you put the constraints as to what you do. And then we can then insert, similar to on the traditional supply side, we can insert what are the compliance instruments and the tools that we have to reduce our emissions. And PLEXOS can solve with that co-optimization happening with the least cost, least risk planning. You can also solve for the fact of how do we end up hitting that emissions reduction target through this list of potential tools we have access to.